Hey, Max, I'm popping off screen for just 1 second.
We're live and making you host.
Okay, thanks.
Go. Please feel free to make me co-host.
There you go, and I accidentally
Thank
muted
you.
you. Hi, Kathy. Hi, Pat. Hi, Leslie. Hi, Jan.
Morning.
Good morning, Danya.
Good morning.
Good to see you all. Well, it's technically afternoon where I am, actually, but I know that where Carolyn is, it's still morning.
You got that one right.
And I got your email. I haven't read it yet, but I did get it.
Okay, I did line by line how you should be able to log into AARP and
Okay.
where to go and what to get. And I think some of that info might be a good thing to include in your class.
Okay.
Not the bread recipe yet. I'll have to figure out. I think I'll just type that in like I did the other info.
Have you done any of the classes with Deb Livingston on cooking or nutrition?
Oh, yes. I've done classes about with everybody.
Well, because I think doesn't she have a recipe collection she's working on?
Oh, she might. But this one isn't probably going to be classified as healthy cooking.
Oh, well, you know, it doesn't have to be healthy. You know, every now and then there's comfort food. I
Yeah.
consider that to be mentally healthy.
Yeah. She's trying to wean me off the colas right now.
Well, I can see that one. That's one there's some pretty easy substitutes for.
Oh, okay. She hasn't done that. She just reminds me how bad they are and how many teaspoons of sugar there are.
They really are bad for you, but if you either don't want to drink colas or carbonated alcoholic beverages, you can drink sparkling water. And I have while we're killing a minute or two for people to join here, I'll just tell you, I have a Soda Stream, which
Yeah.
I used to buy sparkling water by the liter at Trader Joe's, and it was cheap, but
Yeah.
I was bothered by the waste of all the plastic bottles. I'm one
Yeah.
of these people that's trying to deplasticize my life.
Yep.
I'm really bothered by plastic, and I was at my daughter-in-law's parents' house, and they served me some sparkling water made with a Soda Stream, and I said, "This is really good."
I've seen those.
And it's like 50 cents a bottle to make it, which is less than even Trader Joe's, which was the cheapest I'd ever found. And I've had one now for a couple of years, and you just trade in the canister at various places. You can trade them in, and my wife and I find they're great. We were never soda drinkers anyway. I do like to drink beer, but I limit myself to one a day when I have them, and I don't have them even one a day.
Do you put
So
anything else in
you
with them?
can, yes, you can do all sorts of flavorings. I'm not into it unless I sometimes put a quarter of a lime or an eighth of a lime in it. That's good. I'm a lime person. I like limes.
Okay.
My wife likes lemons, so we'll drop those in after we've made them, and we We refrigerate the water before we do it. So, no one, SodaStream isn't paying me. You all know that spiel.
Yeah.
And I can
Well,
recommend SodaStream. It's
I never drank sodas growing up. We were poor and we lived on a farm and didn't even like the taste of soda until I got to the fast food era in my life. But that's kind of gone away. But yeah, I know I need to kick it, and I could probably still afford the sweets in my desserts if I kicked the soda.
Well, see, that's the way I look at it. If you get rid of it in the soda, then you can have it in the ice cream. That's my philosophy. And I don't have that much anyway.
Yeah,
I try to
could
limit my
tell.
sugar, but I haven't really been a soda drinker for 25 years or something like that. I have a son who's some of my kids are athletes. He's a runner. He's a triathlete.
Okay.
And probably he could count on one hand in his life the number of times he's had a soda. When he was in high school, he wouldn't drink them.
Yeah.
And he doesn't drink them now. And he kind of got the whole family. I don't know that we really wanted to drink them, but so none of my kids grew up with sodas in there.
Well, and when I was in Kenya, we didn't have them either, so I survived. But so crazy.
Well, welcome everybody, and welcome to Max, our TA, who will help you with any questions that you have. And if you have questions today, put them in the chat. And if I don't pick them up, Max will. Good to see some of you are new, and I'm really glad to see some new people. I think you're new. Jan, is this your first travel class?
It is. I was just browsing my Facebook and this popped up about 10 minutes ago.
Well, fabulous. So is this your first Get Set Up class?
It is. And I put something out on the Facebook that I want to go to Bali, and I have 36 people who want to go to Bali.
Oh,
And
wow.
yeah. So when this came up, I'm like, hey, I just got done with my walk. So here we are.
There you go. Well, this is all we have lots of travel classes here. I teach most of them, not all of them. And I'm an avid traveler, and I'm so glad you've joined us at Get Set Up. There's all sorts of stuff you can learn here, and it's all free.
Yeah, it's great.
Welcome, Jan. You will love this site. I don't have time to do anything but do classes every day now.
Great.
Even if you take 3 classes a week, you're learning a lot. And the nicest thing about this is that this is learning geared toward older learners. And I will not define older. You can figure out whether you fit that or not. Taught by older guides. In other words, you have to be over 55 to be a guide. It gets set up. And I think that's a real advantage because I've been teaching a lot of tech classes with these little things or my computer. And the older learners love the fact that someone who is older and they don't have to feel embarrassed if they feel slow. So some of us may have children that are in the Gen X or Gen Z generation. I've got the crossover between both of them. I think they call my youngest son, who's 23, is called a zillennial. He's a Gen Z millennial. And I like that zillennial. And he's one of those folks that if I fumble with the remote for more than 3 seconds, he requests it. He doesn't grab it. He says, "Can I have that?" And he does it. And I often just let him do it. I don't care. He's not always. I'd rather have him around and have him be happy. So anyway, he doesn't live in town anymore. But anyway, I'm going to go ahead and share my screen with you and get started. Welcome, Jan. There's lots you can learn to Get Set Up. And some of you, most of you I recognize. I know your names or your faces or both, and glad to have you here. And this is part of a continuing series on travel of classes. And this one that I'm doing today is this class grew out of another class I taught on travel called Top 10 Travel Tips. And the number of tips kept growing. And finally I said, I'm not teaching 10 anymore. It's gone up to like 12. And so I said, I just need to do another class. So I branched out from the top 10 travel tips. They're still the top 10, but this is like the next 10. And there's probably more than 10 here. And again, if any of you have any great ideas, great tips, tell me in the class, put it in the chat, send it in a follow-up email. I'll add to that. Maybe we'll have 30 tips by the time we're done. Some of the stuff I teach in today's class crosses over to other classes. I do a class on how to pack a carry-on, and I do a class on slow travel. And some of these ideas are in some of those classes as well. But it's mostly new stuff. And if you took my very first top 10 travel class, top 10 travel tips class, some of these might be a repeat because I switched around, that I moved some things into the top 10. So anyway, I'm really glad to have all of you here this morning. Most of you know me. I'm your guide, Russ Eanes. I'm from Harrisonburg, Virginia. And if you joined me yesterday, I did a whole class on the Shenandoah Valley. And I think there were a lot of people surprised, like all the fabulous stuff you can do in the Shenandoah Valley. I think one of the persons from that class is already on it. He was coincidentally on his way to the Shenandoah Valley when I did the class. So he got some ideas. I'm a writer, a walker, and a cyclist. I used to be a book publisher. And now I'm a full-time guide with Get Set Up because I love all the energy I get from doing these classes. And I am an avid traveler. I've been to most of the lower 48 states. I think there's about 5 I haven't been to. Like I haven't been to Montana, and I haven't been to Wyoming, and I haven't been to Vermont, and I haven't been to Iowa or Nebraska, believe it or not. Maybe that is something easy to believe. And I've been to 16, I've done 16 overseas trips to South America, mostly to Europe. The most I've been anywhere is 6 times to the UK. And I've been to Canada more times than I can count. Canada, I don't even call overseas anyway. It's a beautiful place. I advocate going there, but it's very similar to the US. As you all know, Get Set Up helps you learn useful skills from people like you so you can do wonderful things. Jan, there's lots of great tech classes you can take, but you can do everything from exercise to nutrition, cooking, entrepreneurship, technology, photography, art and history. There's lots of music. There's all sorts of things you can learn. You can request a recording after class. Jan, you email help@getsetup.io. And I think Max put that in the chat notes. And if anyone's joining by live stream, we are live streaming this morning. The best way to participate is to join us and register for a class. And lastly, Get Set Up's not to pay to promote any specific products. I already promoted SodaStream this morning. They don't pay me anything for that. I actually wish
health classes too.
Health classes, yes.
Yeah. Ravina on the weekend, she only does weekend ones, but she has some good stuff.
There you go. There you go. We have lots of people here that take many classes. So anyway, this class is the top 10 travel tips. And this came out of, the objective is, I'm going to back up here. If I can back up, we're going to discuss travel tips to make travel more fun and hopefully less stressful. And you can learn tips from experienced travelers because we have some pretty experienced travelers in this class right now. I happen to know that. So we can share ideas. These tips today are focused on international travel, whether you're traveling by car, plane, bus, or train. So it doesn't matter how you're getting there. I guess they include ship. I'm one of those that would love one day to go to Europe by ship. Take 6 days and you cross 6 time zones. And I think, because I haven't done it, maybe some of you have done it, I'm thinking that you wouldn't arrive in Europe with any jet lag because your body would have a day to adjust to each time zone. So I'd really like to try that, have enough time to travel over by ship. I could come back by plane, I suppose. That's also can be the greenest form of travel. Cruise lines aren't necessarily green. That's not today's topic. We'll talk about that when I do a class on green travel, which is coming up in July. So just to say, if you haven't had the top 10 travel tips, there's 10 more you can take in that class. This is the other 10, and these are focused on international travel. And this was in my top 10 travel tip, got moved to this one. Tip number 1, when you're traveling abroad, is locate the TI or the tourist information before you go somewhere. So I'm actually planning a trip to Italy. I'm going to return to some of the places I visited in 2019, looking at staying in 2 different places, a week in each, Spoleto and Spello. They're both in the Umbrian region of Italy. And as part of my planning for that, I will look for on a map ahead of time. Either I will find it in a guidebook, or I'll look it up specifically online. I'll look for the tourist information shop in tourist information place in that town before I go there. Why would I do that? The tourist information office, and anyone who's traveled abroad can tell you this, is just dripping with information. They have information in English, since we're English speakers. They also have it in other languages. They can give you all sorts of interesting tips in there. They can tell you about how to use the local mass transit, where to pick up buses or trains. They can tell you about local tours you can take if you want to take a local tour, including free tours. Take a free tour. Tip the guy, your guide, the host that took you on the tour, though, when you're done. They can tell you where to go eat. They can give you all sorts of interesting brochures, and you can probably get more brochures than you know what to do with. I have boxes of brochures I brought back from overseas trips. They're coming in very handy right now as I plan my travel classes, because that's all the information is at my fingertips. In fact, I'm going to show you one today when I come to Google Translate. So that you get those with the tourist information. They give you free stuff. They can give you tickets to things if you want to buy a ticket to a museum or a ticket to they can even give you some countries. The tourist information can give you transit tickets. So there's a whole wide range of places, things you can get at the tourist information office, and they're located online. Every guidebook with a map in it that's worth its salt will have the tourist information office located on that map. The other thing you can find about tourist information's office, TI is kind of international abbreviation for tourist information. So you'll be in a town and you'll see a sign that'll have an arrow on it saying TI this direction. So anyway, that's tip number one. Before you go, find the tourist information office, know where it is. So when you land there and get in town, you can go find it. Now, a little caveat, one of the towns I'm going to, I don't think has a tourist information office because it might be too small. I'm not sure, but I'll go to one in Spoleto for sure. That's a bigger city in Italy. Anybody got anything to add about tourist information offices? Anything else you can find there that I have not said? I know some of you experienced travelers will have some experience with that.
I can't remember if you told Jan that there'll be notes at the end of the class.
Thanks, Carolyn. Yeah, Jan, all this will come to you in a set of notes emailed to you at the end of the class. If you registered, you can take notes, fine. But if you forget anything, it'll all come to you in notes. You go, oh yeah. And sometimes I even give you links to things that I mentioned in there. So look for the links. Okay, tip number 2. These aren't necessarily.
You can get the video if you need to watch it again.
Yes, you can watch the video. Remember, help@getsetup.io will send you a link to the video. Okay, number 2, use a multi-country adapter. Make sure they work with your devices. Okay, this is something I've really gotten big on lately. And the one I have is this Lensynth. That's what it says here. And I'll send you the link to this. I bought it on Amazon, not advocating buying anything on Amazon, but that's where I got it. This little device works at a maximum of 22 watts. Why do I say that? Because you do need to study, and I'll mention that. You need to just do a little research on your device and make sure if the adapter puts out enough or maybe too much juice for your device. And it's worth studying about that. But use a multi-country adapter. This one I got from Lensynth has adapters that work in the US, and then you can attach on a thing that goes to the UK. You can attach on a thing that goes to the continent. You can attach on a thing that goes to Australia. One device. You don't have to bring along the adapter and then plug your US device in it. You just plug this thing in to the wall, and this has 4 USB ports, so you could charge 2 phones. You can charge an iPad with it. Not just an iPad mini, but an iPad. You can also charge a camera, anything that you have electric. It won't necessarily do a laptop computer. That's separate. And I'll mention that in a minute. But this thing I've really latched onto because I can just own one of these. You can even travel to, say, England and then cross over to the continent and just take that same device and it'll work. If you're staying in a hostel with other people, you can plug it in and they can plug in and they'll think that you're the greatest person in the world for bringing that along. You can also get similar things when you are abroad, like I'm showing here. The one on the left is a single prong. It's got double prongs for the continent. That's what you use on continental Europe. It looks very similar to the adapter you use for your iPhone. That's just a USB port in there. You can just take that along and plug it into an outlet in the continent. It'll work. The one on the right does the exact same thing, plugs straight into the wall on the continent. It's got 3 USB ports. I picked that up in a flea market in Italy. So either of those will work for you. This is easier than bringing along the big adapters that you take and you plug into the wall that then allow you to use your 2-prong US adapter or device. That can be clunky. They stick way out from the wall. Things can fall out of them, and it just adds extra weight. So I'm big on this. You'll get a link to this Lensent device in your notes, and I can recommend it to you.
I just want to add that two things. One that's really important is getting this multi-USB, because when you get over to Europe, a lot of times you're lucky to find 1 or 2 plugs over there. So being able to, and you're going to have a whole bunch of stuff, your phone, your tablet, a camera, all kinds of stuff you want to charge up that night. And the other thing is you will find that your iPhone and your tablets take both voltage, the 120 and the 240. So you don't have to worry about that. However, you are going to need a European adapter if you are going to plug in a regular appliance like a hairdryer or something else that's electrical.
That's true. You can't plug a USB in for a hairdryer.
But, well, I'm not just saying that. The nice thing is that you don't, that all these all these products have been designed so that they will take 120 or 240 juice going into them. And this little adapter adapts that. But
this thing right here. So on the right, this little 3-prong thing is what you use in the UK, and they have 240 volts. And this thing has been set up so it'll work with that, so you don't have to worry about it yet.
Right. But people get the plug adapters mixed up with the converter.
That's right.
So all I'm saying is that, of course, I'll buy a hairdryer that has a switch on it that does either. But
and if you own an Apple device, so I'm teaching today from my MacBook Air, and if you know what the little charging adapter looks like that goes in the wall, they have little things that slip out, and you can buy a kit now for $29, and it has all of these same adapters that you have here for the UK, Europe, and for Australia exist on that. You can plug one of those in. So if you have to take a laptop with you, I would recommend not, but if you are, you can get that to just slip over your the adapter for your charger for any of those other countries. And Apple sells those $29 as a bargain for it. So
the other thing that people need to be aware of in most foreign countries, when you leave to go out, when you come back in the room, you put your room card in to get the electricity going. When you leave, you're taking your room key, so you don't have any electricity, which means you can't be charging anything while you're gone. You went out to eat and you thought, well, I'll charge. So you need to save a room card from the previous hotel. You can put anything in there and it will work to charge. So that way you have electricity when you're out. Otherwise, you're not air conditioning or heating the room when you're gone. It saves them money, but it may not make it very comfortable for you.
So what Joan's speaking of is in a lot of hotels, when you go in the European countries, you go into the hotel and you have to slip up your room key, which is a card, into a receptacle, and that turns on the electricity for your device. And when you leave to take your card with you, your keys, it does the same thing. Good point. Tip number 3, shop in secondhand stores. So my wife and I learned this when we first went to England in 2008. I noticed that each of the sizable towns, not even really big towns, but towns of any size, had these secondhand stores. The biggest ones we saw were Oxfam, but there were also must have been 4 other types of shops. I've seen these all over the UK that are like the hardest, some heart association or another. It's a charity. And we found that those shops had all sorts of great stuff in there at a fraction of the cost that you'd pay in a regular store. Everything from books to even items of clothing. Some often they're new, but often they're used. I bought a lot of my guidebooks and maps. So I have more Ordnance Survey maps for the UK that I've picked up in Oxfam bookstores in case I ever hike there again. I can give them to my sons if I don't ever make it there. But they're very inexpensive. I've seen them in France and I've seen them in Germany. In Germany, we've come across the same style of stores, and they're really good places. So spy them out when you're in a larger city or even a larger town. Look for them. And I don't have a list for you today of all the names of those places. I'll generate that list another time. But Oxfam is a big one in the UK. Those are the best. That's a international relief organization for hunger, Oxfam. That's used to be based in the UK. I'm not positive it's based there still, but it's just something to look out for. And if you want to buy souvenirs or an item of clothing, once when I was in the UK, I'm like, I didn't bring any handkerchiefs along with me. I went into the Heart Association store, and there were on the rack were wads of brand new cotton linen handkerchiefs, and they were very inexpensive. I said, well, that solves my problem right there. So that's just an idea to keep looking out for when you're overseas. Something you may not think about. Yes, Kathy.
This wasn't international, but we were in Hawaii. I took my folks there. And you know how you want to buy beach towels or whatever as a souvenir. Well, somebody tipped us into the fact of go to the local Kmart, and they were like half the price of what you would normally get. And I still use them to this day.
There you go. There you go. Okay. Tip number 4. Download free language apps and practice. Learn basic phrases. So this is a picture off my phone this morning of some of and these are all free apps. I'm pretty sure they're all free that I've used over the years. Like this is Essential French, Rosetta Stone's whole bunch of different languages. I got one here on Italian. I've got one here on German. And these apps, besides teaching you basic phrases and numbers and things like that, they not only show you what they look like, but you can hear them so you can learn to pronounce them. And I really advocate knowing the basic phrases: excuse me, please, thank you, may I have, where is, and of course the big one, I don't understand, or can you say it in English, please? I practice these so that when I'm in a foreign country, I can communicate. I may not be able to do the best communication, but I'll be able to do some communication. And I learned that in some countries, they just appreciate if you try. Some countries, some places in Europe, people know a lot of English. If you go to Germany or Holland or Scotland, they know a lot of English. I joke about Scotland because sometimes their dialect you can't understand, especially if they're drunk, forget it. And, but the Germans especially, but not everywhere in Germany. I mean, if you're in a smaller town or in just a regular old neighborhood, not anywhere on the tourist track, you may not find people that speak English very well. So to know the basic things, I know in German, I say, ich verstehe nicht, it means I don't understand. Or, in French, you can say en anglais, s'il vous plaît, or I don't understand. Those are very important things to know. But even just, where's the bathroom? Or my favorite one in Spanish is café con leche, por favor. I want some coffee. Caffè con leche, or in Italian, I sono cappuccino per favore. So you can get along well if you know that. Donde está el baño in Spanish. And these apps are free. They have those different categories. There are paid versions. Someone is mentioning here that you use Duolingo. My wife is a Duolingo addict. I think she's on like a 320-day streak on doing Duolingo. She's trying to become fluent in Spanish. She's at least conversational in Spanish. And by the way, just a little hint, this isn't one of the top tips, but if you know Spanish, you go to Italian and you go to Italy, you can struggle through, because my wife struggled through Italian, knowing a lot of Spanish. So yeah, Duolingo will take you through lessons. You can practice. Personally, I don't learn any other language by seeing it written and then say, see, now this, in English, say this in Spanish. I have to see the concept and then I'd say it in that language. But anyway, these are all good for teaching you those things. Learn those basic phrases. They can help you get by, and they're free. And Duolingo has a free version and a paid version, I'm pretty sure. Let's see. Leslie mentioned that. Kathy, am I correct in that? Yeah. And they're serious. My wife spends a lot of time on Duolingo. Okay, now here's tip number 5. You can use Google Translate for all sorts of things. You can use Google Translate, like you can go to a foreign country and you can type in a phrase and you can ask to type it to translate into that language, and you can hold it up to someone and show it to them, and they can, maybe type the answer back, and you can that's one way you can communicate. But you can also use it in this cool way, which is to translate like a menu or something like that. Or like so what I've got today is I got a brochure from Switzerland, and it's in Swiss German. So I'm gonna stop this share for a second. I'm gonna share my phone with you, and we're gonna try this one out. See if I can get this to work. Well, don't tell me you can't connect. Screen mirroring, Zoom, Russell's back, Book Bear. It says it won't connect. Well, that's very inconvenient. I don't want to do Apple TV. Okay, let's try one more time. Well, I won't be able to demonstrate that one this morning. I apologize. I would like to demonstrate it, but it does work. I tested it earlier. You can actually use the camera function when you're in Google Translate and hover it over the words or the text in that language, and it will translate it for you. Will it do the best translation? No, but it will translate some. So if you want to use a menu, I'm going to try that one more time. Just make sure see if it, no, let's try it. Let me try it one more time. This is really fun. We'll give it one more shot to see if I can share it. Got it. Okay, now we're on. All right, I'm going to open Google Translate. Everybody see that on the screen? And I've got this brochure, which is in German. And if you just hold it over there, it'll now begin to translate it. So there are more on the speech circular walking trail. You have to kind of scroll over there for it to do more. Several of monument. It's monument preservation, and this one's not the best because it's kind of a wide text. But you
Russ, if you turn your phone horizontally, so you get more in, will it work that way?
Let's see if it works. I think it's limited by the size of what the camera is holding. We'll try it one more time.
It only seems to work vertically. So
Yeah.
you have to pull it back enough that you can get all the
Construction in the homeland style with Art Nouveau influences. So gable roof. So you can begin to do some.
The idea.
You get the idea. Thank you, Carolyn. I tried this once before; it didn't work, so it does work. And in a pinch, you can use that. Where I've used it in a pinch the most is is on a menu. Now, if it can't translate the word, if like a word doesn't have an equivalent translation, I won't do any good. But it is worth knowing that you can do that with your phone when you are in a pinch. So make sure you have Google Translate on your phone. It is probably, I would say, the most useful travel app I can think of, because also, if you want to learn how to use, say, a phrase, you can type that in English, and like you know, if you don't want to go figure it out on your language app, you can put it in English, and it'll give it to you in that other language, and it'll say it, so you get the pronunciation, which is often a bit different than you might think. So
Do the menus in Europe have pictures? So you could point to a picture if you didn't have your translate on?
they might not.
Okay.
It's good in a pinch. And sometimes your waiter or your waitress will speak English and can tell you what it is. But anyway, it's a handy thing to have along, like this brochure I've got, which is in for the town of Spitz. It's actually a brochure about all the famous architecture. It's a good way to do it. Okay, tip number 6, use a stuff sack or crossbody bag in place of a purse, or for guys, just something to carry your stuff in. I've never figured out the gender thing about purses. I know because women's trousers don't have enough pockets, but frankly, for me, men's trousers don't have enough pockets either. All the stuff I want to carry. A couple years ago, my wife and I hit on this thing of a cross body bag, and we bought one. You can see how this woman's got it on her back. You can also slide it around, and you can carry it on your front. So if you're in a crowded bus and you're worried about pickpockets, you can slide the bag around. We got one of these. It's only like $18 or $19. Let me go back to the one before. Oops. We actually bought ours on Amazon. You can get all sorts of different colors. I'm actually thinking of getting one myself. They also have a smaller version of this that you can use. I do also carry a stuff sack in place of it, but these little crossbody bags are really nice. And I would honestly, I'll let my wife speak for me in this case, or I'll let my wife speak for herself. She would say that she would use this. She wouldn't take a purse when she goes overseas. She brings this along, and she puts her stuff on it for the airplane, and then she uses it the whole time she's there. And of course, she may not keep a wallet or something like that in it. She might keep that in a more secure place, but it's a great way. I like that you can switch it to the front. You can switch it to the back. You can also put a water bottle in it. And I'll send you the link to this one. Someone asked about the link. I'll make sure you get the link to buy this.
On one of the other travel classes, she featured something from Rick Steves. He had some kind of a waist belt pocket thing.
You don't mean like a money belt. You mean more like a fanny pack?
No, I think it was maybe a money belt that you put.
Yeah, there is a money belt. I've never used one because I have pants that have zippered pockets inside another pocket. It's so hard for me to get it out. I don't think a pickpocket can get out without me knowing it.
One thing I found, Russ, I'm sorry, is that in addition to, maps and stuff like that, I found that almost, especially if you go into a city for the whole day, where you've maybe taken transportation in, that because of weather, you're going to usually have to carry a sweater or some light little jacket or something. Now, I also try to carry things where I can tie it around my waist or something like that. But you'll find that you need, and I'm like you, your wife, I don't travel with a purse unless it's just a small crossbody, thing. But I've used an Eddie Bauer lightweight nylon backpack that folds into itself. And it will carry quite a bit as far as my my carry-on on the plane, but also once I get there, then it's lightweight enough that I can carry as little or as much as I want during the day.
I think I'll also in a future class show one of these that they call them sling bags, and they look kind of about the size of a large fanny pack, and you can put them around your waist, but you can also slide them over your shoulders, front or back. They're kind of, a lot of men like those, and I've seen a lot of men in foreign countries with those, and not just tourists. In a lot of foreign countries, South America, even men carry all their stuff in a man purse, so to speak. And those are very handy. I'll make sure next time I do this class, I'll show that because that's something a lot of men might like to use. Another tip, number 7, is bring along a folding lightweight duffel for a return trip. So I've got this great thing, and I'll have to confess, I got mine. I'm a member of Sierra Club. I got mine as a freebie for signing up for Sierra Club. It folds up a little bit bigger than my hand, weighs less than a half a pound, is nylon. But when it opens up, it's got 2 nifty handles. And by the way, it has a detachable strap if you want to bring along a strap for it over your shoulder. It is a very sizable duffel when it's full. I mean, on the right-hand picture, I've got it just with a little bit of stuff in it. But you can really stuff it full with a lot of stuff. And we found that's very handy for return trips. So when we went to Ireland and in Scotland in 2015 and 2016, we wanted to buy some local clothing, wool sweaters knitted in the Aran Islands, or I like the Harris tweed jackets. I bought a Harris tweed jacket. And if you want extra room to put your stuff in, the duffel bag can help. Now, we packed the things we bought or wore them home with us so they couldn't get lost, and packed some of our other things in the duffel bag. I also have, when I've been hiking, I use this fold-up duffel to transport our hiking poles to and from, because hiking poles technically are not allowed in carry-on bags. But these are really nice. It folds up small. It's very lightweight. You can when we travel to Europe with our hiking poles, we put them in it, and then we get to our destination, we fold up and stick it in our backpack. But it's a really nifty little thing. You can buy something like this in a lot of places. Very lightweight, very handy, folds up into itself, and is good if you're going to buy extra stuff to bring back. I mean, when we came back from Italy last time, we brought Christmas presents. Like we brought lots of spices, and I packed a bottle of wine I bought over there or two, brought back. So anyway, there's lots of, it just gives you some extra capacity for the return trip.
You can even use that in the United States when you're going to go visit your grandkids. You're taking a lot
Exactly.
of presents down. You have 2 bags when you're going down, and you only have 1 when you're coming back.
There you go. Great idea, Joan. Okay, tip number 8, and this is one that a lot of people don't think about till they get somewhere. Know the food culture of the place you're going to. When do they eat? When are things closed? What are their specialities? This is one of my favorites when I'm in the UK, which is afternoon tea with a scone. I don't miss that any day if I can at all help it. But when my wife and I went to France in 2014, my first time in France, and we were in Burgundy, and we were hungry our first day there, and we were all totally jet lagged and our schedules were all mixed up, but we thought about 6 o'clock, hey, it's time to go get supper. Well, guess what? There was nothing open for supper at 6 o'clock. It's because early supper for them starts at 8. That's when people start to drift into restaurants. And I actually knew that, but I had forgotten it when I got there. My belly was telling me it was supper time, but my brain, when I went out looking around, said, oh yes, I'm in France. You won't find anything open at 6. So learn that wherever you're going. Or like when I walked through Spain, I discovered that a lot of places were were closed anywhere between 10 and 3. They varied from town to town. They seemed to be random, but I usually knew that there was sometime in the late morning to early afternoon, things shut down. And if you wanted a bite to eat, you were out of luck. So again, that was something I knew. Or I was walking through Spain as a pilgrim. And so the places I stayed had pilgrim meals, and they served meals for pilgrims at 6 o'clock because the pilgrims were all ready to be crawling in bed by 9. So it wouldn't do any good to do the typical Spanish meal starting about 8 or 9 in the evening. But when I was in bigger cities and I went walking around for a place to eat, they didn't open till 8 or 9. So learn all this before you go. And of course, I talk about getting guidebooks, researching online, but really no better way to study the culture than in a guidebook. And a lot of guidebooks, I'll be quite honest, even if they're dated, cultural things don't change that much. Some specifics about trains or when types of things that are open might change. The Europeans, for example, have a lot more chain stores, sort of corporate chain stores that they didn't have in the past. That they're there now, and so they might not be in a guidebook that's 20 years old. But what Spaniards like to eat and when they like to eat pretty much hasn't changed. So go for those guidebooks you can get on sale for $1 in a thrift store or a used bookstore.
I think in
Russ-
England, I think most places close from like 12 to 2, and everybody goes home and eats lunch, and they don't understand this grab and go and stay open all day.
Well, and also watch out in England, they have a lot of what they call bank holidays. I remember the first time I encountered a bank holiday in England, I was in Canterbury for a day, and the day before I'd spied a store I wanted to shop in. I thought, oh, well, I'll go there tomorrow. Well, the next day was a bank holiday, and they have a lot of bank holidays. South America is even more true. And now sometimes places geared toward tourists, but things can be shut unexpectedly.
On food, I was going to say also in Italy, don't ever miss the I guess 5 to 7 aperitif, which is you buy a drink and then just so many hors d'oeuvres come with it. You don't need dinner. But the other is I did find, like in England, you think you're traveling around, you think, oh, okay, I'll just stop at 3 o'clock in the afternoon and grab a sandwich in a pub. No, you won't, because they're very set hours. So I found it's very handy when I travel, especially internationally, is to throw a handful of granola bars in my backpack. So either I've got them on the plane, or even after I get there, I've always got something that if I'm absolutely starving, they'll just hold me over until, you know, you can get a good meal, or you don't want to end up eating junk or, you know, a bad meal just because you can't make it another 2 hours to get a good meal. So I just found
that's a good
traveling with
point.
granola bars, they don't take up a lot of room, and you just use them for emergencies, but they fit in that little backpack or whatever, and you've got them in case you're ever up against a wall. Or cheese and crackers, the little cheese and cracker packages.
Well, you know,
I don't know if it's changed or not, but I went to Italy several times, maybe 20 years ago or 15 years ago, and the restaurants all were required by law to close 1 day a week. And we found a favorite restaurant close to our hotel, found out it wasn't open. Usually it's like Monday or a day that's not real busy, but there was 1 day we could not go to the restaurant we wanted to.
Yes, that's true. In Spain, I discovered a lot of things close on Sundays, or close on a certain time on Sunday. And another thing, like Melinda was mentioning, those hors d'oeuvres, like a food culture thing in Spain is what they call tapas, which are like the hors d'oeuvres they give you in the bars, cafes. And she's right. You can just get several tapas and you've had your supper. You'll get those earlier in the evening. In the UK, for example, I've done a lot of hiking and walking there, but I've stayed in a small town that had a Sainsbury or some other kind of grocery store. Their chains, and they are big on pre-prepared sandwiches. And I would just go in there and grab for, 2 or 3 pounds, a pre-prepared sandwich, all in a nice little package for you. And you could grab 1 or 2 of those and some fruit, and you've got your lunch for the day, and didn't have to worry about when restaurants were going to be opened or closed. And of course, the British have tea, which is really what we might think of a snack, late afternoon. Tip number 9 is use mass transit and learn how it works in advance. So tip number 10 is going to have a little bit of a contradiction to that. I don't know if anyone will notice it, but I like to go by mass transit whenever I can for many reasons. One of which is that it tends to be cheaper. Number 2, I can sightsee and look out the window while I'm on mass transit. Number 3, I don't have to worry about when I'm driving, navigating while I'm trying to watch the scenery. And it's also greener. It's more, it's kinder on the environment if we're using mass transportation. But you do need to research where you're going. And of course, that's one of the things I say whenever you're traveling: know your risks, know where you're going, plan ahead. Don't just show up there and wonder about what you're going to encounter. They have much more mass transit in Europe. They also have buses that go out into rural areas, like out in the middle of nowhere, where in America, you'd never see a bus. And these are really good things to know, but research it in advance. When my wife and I were in Germany in 2016, I went there for work to Frankfurt. We decided we wanted to go tour a winery that was in the little town of Eltville on the Rhine River. And it was maybe, I don't know, a half an hour away by train. We hopped in the train. We got to Eltville. I knew in advance there was a bus that went out to this winery, which is about 3 or 4 miles out in the countryside, but I'd researched it. And I knew there was a bus that could get me there. So showed up in town, walked off the train, looked for what time the next bus. I even knew what number it was. It's easy to find the mass transit information in Europe. And even in South America, we traveled all over Colombia by bus. I did a little bit of flying once, but you can go everywhere by bus, and the buses are very comfortable. Tip number 10, use a credit card that does not charge exchange fees and often covers your auto insurance. So there are many credit cards which advertise that they don't have foreign exchange fees, and that's really a good thing to know. I have Capital One cards, I have Chase cards. They all say that they have no foreign exchange fees, but as a plus, they also say in the fine print that they will cover your basic car insurance while you're traveling. So often if you're renting a car, so this contradicts using mass transit, but some countries you do need to rent a car. If you're out in the middle of nowhere in Ireland or Scotland, you'd be thankful for a car. You will be thankful for your credit card, which covers that, so you can decline the basic. They'll also say, you're on the hook for any damage that happens. You're gonna charge you the total amount for that. And I've always plunked down a credit card that covers that basic travel insurance, but research it in advance because, for example, Ireland is a country in which most credit cards give an exception. They don't cover it in Ireland. However, I do have a credit card, which last time I used it in Ireland did cover that basic insurance in Ireland. So look for those cards. Capital One has them. Chase has them. Last tip, don't pack your cat by accident. This is just a fun one. I was in the UK for 3 weeks in 2016, came home, had one day at home before I had to turn around and fly for work to Canada. And there's my old Tomcat, just so glad to see me. And he's laying right in the middle of all the stuff I'm trying to pack, and would have been easy just to throw him in the bag by accident. Anyway, don't pack your cat. Cats don't travel well. Dogs maybe, but not cats.
My cat always hopped in my suitcase when I headed out on the bed packing.
Yes,
always.
Mine did that too. When I moved here, I've now lived here 10 years. And when we moved here 10 years ago, one of my cats disappeared the day that we moved into the house. She was an indoor cat. We were thinking maybe she'd gotten outside and was hiding somewhere. We couldn't find her for an entire day, almost an entire day. Like we noticed, hey, no one's seen her all day. We last saw her this morning. It was like 8:00 in the evening. We'd been looking for her for hours. I found her inside one of my suitcases in a closet. She was terrified of the moving men. This cat is scared of her shadow. She's still scared of her shadow. But anyway, yes, they love suitcases. They would love to go with you. They wouldn't enjoy the trip. Anybody got any tips or comments? Let me check the chat because I know there was a question or two.
I think a cat would let you know.
A cat certainly would let you know.
Meow, meow.
Yep.
My tip would be what I always do when I arrive in a country is to use the ATM machine at the airport because they usually give a good exchange rate there. Some of the other places you don't have such a good exchange rate. And if at that particular time I'm leaving Europe, I come back to the United States with maybe 10 euros or 20 euros. If the exchange rate is bad, I come back with nothing. But if it's really good, better than it had been for years, I might come back with $50 worth of euros. So I use that to help me for my next trip.
Yep. I do that too. I always just keep some. I figure if I'm going to go there again, I'll want to have a few in my pocket. Yeah. One of my, in the top 10 travel tips, I talk a bit about getting currencies, not using the currency exchange places you see in the airports to avoid those. Another tip I have is just find out if people have currency they don't want. Last time I went to Italy, I put out on Facebook, hey, I'm going to Italy. Anybody got euros they don't want? About 3 people contacted me and I picked up about 80 euros. I just said, I'll give you whatever the current exchange rate is. We can agree on that exchange rate. Kathy asked, do you have a class on safety tips? Yes. In fact, I have a class tomorrow called Traveling Safely at 2:00 Eastern time. And that includes all aspects of safety, like how to not get mugged, to how to not pick up COVID-19 while you're traveling. I can't guarantee nothing will happen to you, but I can give you the best advice. And the next class on packing the suitcase is tomorrow at 4. How to pack everything you need for a 2-week trip in a carry-on suitcase, because you want to make sure when you arrive overseas that all your luggage is with you and not stuck in that connecting airport in New York, promising that it will get to you by tomorrow. So I always carry on when I travel. I always carry on when I travel anywhere. It doesn't matter. When I flew to Maine last weekend, I carried on because even though they were going to charge me to carry on until I pointed out that I had the airline branded credit card, in which case they allowed me to carry on. They said I could check a bag for free, but I couldn't carry on. I said, well, how about if I just exchange the benefit of the free check bag for carry on? They said, yeah, that'll work for you. The reason I wanted to carry on was because I had only a 20-minute time window between when I landed and when a bus that I was going to catch to where my son lives took off. And I didn't want to go wait at a carousel for 10 minutes for my bag to come off, even though it was a direct flight. So I always say you carry on, your bag is there when you're there. And number 2, you walk right out of the plane and wherever you're going next, you don't have to go to a carousel, a baggage claim. Coming back, I don't care. I mean, that's why I have that duffel. If I want to buy some extra things and throw some stuff in a duffel and pick it up at the carousel when I get back, I'm not as worried. For me, the main thing is to get there. Coming home, I know I'm going to get home and my stuff will get home sometime as well.
Russ, I had one other tip to add to people, and that is with Google Maps, you can download a city map before, while you've got Wi-Fi. Go ahead and download a city map or an area. You can actually, scale out what area you want. And obviously the smaller the area, the less the memory, but you can download that. And then your GPS dot is free. You do not need to be using data or Wi-Fi for the GPS dot to show up. And when you're in Europe, nothing is on a grid system, and the streets wind, they change names all the time. And the best thing is to be able to get your phone out, look at the your map, and you can find yourself and then start walking, and you can see what direction you're walking in. A lot of times you're literally walking you're completely turned around 180 degrees, and you might think you're going north, but by having that GPS, you can literally watch yourself moving, and you go, oh, I'm going in that direction. And I'm at this corner. And that is the most useful thing. It is more useful than paper maps or anything, because a paper map, you think you know where you are, and before you know it, you're walking 2 blocks and find out you've walked 2 blocks in the wrong direction. So
that's right.
It's one of the handiest things I've ever found. And it took me a while before I realized that the GPS does not run off of data. So
that's right. And you can get those Google Maps offline when you're in Wi-Fi, and then they're on your phone. Very good. Very good point. Well, thanks everybody for being in the class today. There's 2:30. I'll do a class on when can we go where, which is what I'll tell you is how you can find the latest up-to-date information about travel. International especially, because you can pretty much go everywhere inside the lower 48 without any problems. And then at 4 o'clock today, I'll be doing a class on how to use Airbnb. So if any of you are interested in traveling and want to do some lodging reservations and you've never used Airbnb, I'll show you a bit about how Airbnb works. You'll get a follow-up email with notes from this class. Also, I always love feedback, and I even take to heart critical feedback. At least once a week, I get some constructive feedback on how to make the class better. I really appreciate that. And I'll try to incorporate ideas you have into new classes or into the same class. So thanks everybody for being here. I enjoyed it and hope to see you in some more classes. And Jan, come back for other Get Set Up classes. Lots of stuff you can learn.
Thanks.
Bye.
Bye-bye.